people with expired non-disclosure agreements. What is the juicy information you can now tell us? Part 2. I work in advertising and have worked specifically on a few Apple commercials. They are insane with the amount of NDAs they make you sign before you can work on a spot for the latest iPhone. They are paranoid that new upcoming features leaked. It is completely ludicrous because all you have to do is Google new iPhone features and every single one of their so-called secrets is already on the web. I was once on the camera crew of Pimp My Ride and most of the show is fake. The guys knew ahead of time that we were arriving. The car had to be fully paid off and most of the work done has to be paid for in almost full. Someone I know signed a NDA with a fruit robot editor note. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be phone company because her phone caught fire during the night while charging with official hardware. She got paid in the 6 figures to not talk about it after reporting the issue and got to discuss it with high-ranking officer of said company. A client invented a watch with 2 faces so you could set it to time zones. Nice for international travelers who couldn't do simple math. My boss broke the NDA and the company was almost sued. He had to pay them something, but I don't know what. Idiot told the client that he shared the idea with a sales rep from a watch company to see if it was a good idea. The rep said yes. Don't worry, the rep promised to not tell anyone else. I had to sign a non-compete and NDA when I worked at a successful local bakery. We didn't sell anything super extravagant, kinda your normal stuff like cookies, brownies, cake, cupcakes, croissants. The most complicated thing we did was candy bars, but even they weren't patisserie level. The NDA was just to ensure that we didn't share/take her recipes and start our own business, which is totally reasonable. We could tell people the ingredients because of allergies and whatnot, but not specific brands or recipes. People would come in and make conversation by asking what our secret was to such amazing treats, you know, just being complimentary and not really expecting me to spell out the recipes. I'd always playfully say, oh, well, you know I can't tell you that. Or to the more chill/fun customers I'd say, I'd tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. Some people really wanted to know though, and I'd have to tell them I actually legally can't talk about it. It's interesting how, when some people realize they're not allowed to know, they get ravenous about getting the information. I had someone trying to sneak in our kitchen storeroom to try and deduce something. The big secret: good quality ingredients and basic baking technique. Literally that's it. People could easily find recipes online of close approximations of anything she made and recreate them to a comparable level if they bought good ingredients and learned pretty basic baking skills. Since the NDA is over, and since I don't give a shit, the company I worked for before, Cognizant, is the one that looks at all the photos, videos, and text posts made to Facebook. Basically, you upload cheese pizza, and they're the ones who have to watch it for hours to determine which rules it violates. Grandpa worked with satellites in the 50s, 60s for the Air Force. Like, if you tell anyone anything about these, we'll execute you for treason stuff. He walked into a comic book store in the 90s and found trading cards with all the info he was sworn to guard decades earlier. Outback Steakhouse's recipe for macaroni and cheese. 4 ounces of heavy whipping cream. 4 ounces of Velveeta cheese. 9 ounces of al dente pen pasta. Throw it in a saute pan and melt the cheese. Bam! Outback mac and cheese. The state of Oklahoma once busted a counterfeit check ring because the individuals misspelled Oklahoma on the front of some checks. They were damn near perfect copies with valid account, check, and amount numbers, and were caught when an employee who ran a reader/sorter machine noticed a rejected check with the spelling Oklahoma. I was that employee and had to testify in court regarding finding the checks. I think I'm still not supposed to talk about certain details, even though it was a long time ago. Still another 65 years before I can reveal the outdated 1980s designs for my nuclear submarine. All the people at the retirement home are going to lose their minds. I'll likely get in trouble for this one, but screw it, people need to know. I've met Zuckerberg while he was visiting one of his data centers. Zuck had never been to any of his data centers since the founding of his company, so it was a big deal. Everything was orchestrated and controlled for his arrival. There could be absolutely no screw-ups or issues during this time, so lots of risks were mitigated. Here are some highlights of his trip. I'm not sure if this was to shield Zuck from ongoing issues at the DC or just to make the tour pleasant for him. Anyone who didn't need to be there during his visit was sent home for the day. Some FTEs, contractors, data center support staff and other unwanted/troublemakers. During his tour, everyone and everything was orchestrated and planned before he even arrived. From who he would meet with, accidentally run into during the tour, take questions from, what those questions were, for the most part, and the timing of each segment of the tour and so on. It was so unrealistic and fake, and still to this day I have no idea why. Zuck is socially awkward in person. He doesn't seem to cope well when an awkward situation pops up. Before you meet Zuck, they had handlers that would meet with you to ensure that you didn't discuss anything that would be out of bounds and create a potentially awkward situation for Zuck. Zuck really is a pretty short person. You'll notice most of his PR photos are staged in a way to make him look equally as tall as the other subjects in the photo. Zuck's personal security team did a sweep of the data center, even though we have 24/7 on-site security. Facebook didn't want the public to know that Zuck had never been inside one of his data centers before. He had been to a Carlo, but this was his first visit inside to a fully built FB data center. In fact, they fired a data center manager who ran the Forest City DC in North Carolina for commenting on Zuck's public post asking him to visit the North Carolina DC when Zuck announced his nationwide tour because of it. Since I'm at it, might as well throw some fuel on the fire. Facebook lied internally to all of their employees about an issue raised by several FTEs about very targeted advertisements appearing in their feed, based on conversations that only their phone's microphone could pick up. Messenger and the Facebook app both had reported issues internally about this. Facebook had an internal beta application you could install from their app store that was testing on the fly face detection. Similar to how FB photos worked, it would load up this very basic application, point the camera at someone's face, and it would tell you their name and link their profile. The permissions of this application were very weak and at first you could get anybody's name and profile before they locked it down to friends only. What could possibly go wrong with this? Facebook data centers are not as secure as you think. Data is not encrypted on some of the local media due to performance loss. Flash storage on HADB clusters for example, though there are other methods attempted to try to better secure the data. In the event that a contractor physically steals media from the floor, it can take up to days before the ticketing system would report the drive missing, and by that point the data is long gone. It was estimated that this event would cost Facebook over $1 billion in damages. This issue was brought up many times to security, but they didn't care. Bonus: since this has gotten some attention, the Dallas-Fort Worth DC had to fire the entirety of the contracted kitchen crew for doing coke on the job as well as stashing it at the data center property. Leadership really wanted to keep that quiet. I had to sign an agreement that waived all of my rights to any of my business and personal Facebook account data. TLDR, no expectation of privacy. Facebook would regularly bring out VIPs, politicians, investors, governors, and give them tours, and hook them up with quite a bit of gifts and personal favors to help with their PR view. Fort Worth Mayor does this on the regular, as well as Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, and ex-Governor Branstad as well as various Iowan senators. There were multiple accounts of FTEs bringing up issues about bot activity on the platform before and during the 2016 election that turned up nothing. This is what led me to quit due to the Cambridge Analytica revelations after the election. TigerDirect was once a pretty successful computer hardware store in North America. There was a whole crap storm of reasons why their brick and mortar stores collapsed quite quickly. Some of that information is public. However, I know they were being sued for shamelessly trying to force their clients to buy an antivirus software that was in fact just a well-dressed virus. It dramatically impacted system performance. It didn't really do anything more than Defender. It was alarmingly expensive and ultimately didn't actually work without paying a ton of additional fees. More worryingly, once your credit card information was recorded, it continued to charge you, even if you cancelled the subscription, and your fees were astronomically higher after a few months. And it was notoriously a problem to remove. Calling their helpline for help only resulted in their agents refusing to help you unless you gave them your credit card info and more money. So, want to use the software? Gonna be more money. Want help using the software? More money. Want to stop using the software? More money. Already giving them money? More money it is then. Employees who questioned this software were terminated. They were forced to sell it and fired if they did not sell a substantial amount. It went so far that the store stopped carrying any other antivirus just to prevent sales of anything but. Couple this with illegal firing practices, with the company considering reselling computers abandoned at their tech bench back to new people, some employment violations. And that's just the stuff I know about. There's more, but I wasn't privy to it all. They like to cite the decline of brick and mortar stores and the success of their online store, but I haven't seen any other brick and mortar stores for competition closing. Actually the opposite, and focusing all your eggs on the let's compete with new egg basket doesn't seem wise either. I'm almost certain their collapse was due to overwhelming lawsuits and or an attempt to avoid more by almost dissolving. But like I said, I know only of the lawsuits and violations that happened in my district, not necessarily the whole chain. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this 2-part video.